Welcome to Mathew's Month. I'm Mathew Hulbert, former journalist and councillor and current charity trustee, school governor and policymaker. Today I'd like to talk about a British institution which is under threat from political expediency, and I speak of our public libraries. To me, being able to access a quality library and make use of all of its services should be a birthright for anyone born in this country. They should be a universal service funded by general taxation and staffed by professional librarians. Sadly, the government and many local authorities up and down the country don't appear to agree. According to the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy, 272 library service points have closed since 2010. With stretched budgets due to the restricted deal by government for local authorities, all too many councils are choosing what they believe to be the easy option, maybe the low-hanging fruit, of closing libraries or forcing voluntary groups to take them over, which to my mind at least is the antithesis of what volunteering is about or should be about. In my view, volunteering is exactly that. It's volunteering to do something because you have an interest in it, because you want to be the value added, as I always call it, so that yes, services have staff members, or should do, but also volunteers help to provide that little bit extra that can't be provided by paid staff. What volunteering isn't about, or shouldn't be about in my view, is having the effective gun to the head that we will shut this service if you don't take it over as a voluntary group, which is what's being said by all too many local authorities, including here in Leicestershire, to library campaigners and those trying to keep libraries open. Not many people necessarily know this, but the government and local authorities actually have a legal responsibility at the moment to provide people with a quality library service that meets our needs. By statute, from a bill passed in the 1960s, local authorities must provide comprehensive and efficient library services, and national government, central government, must oversee and improve libraries. Just last week as we were recording this, I went down to Parliament for the Speak Up for Libraries lobby of Parliament, and Speak Up for Libraries is an umbrella group of a number of different library campaigners, organisations and individuals who want to save their local libraries. And we went down to Parliament. We had a fantastic rally with lots of authors came to speak, both children's authors and authors of books for adults came along and spoke, and we even had a little 10-year-old lad who came and spoke, who'd been given special permission by his school to have that morning off to come and say that he loved his local library, and that, you know, the government is doing the wrong thing, as he said, and we should do the right thing, which is to campaign for public libraries. Also, just to say, when referencing him, that school libraries, many school libraries are also under threat. And again, you know, it seems an anathema to me that any civilised nation, any nation calling itself civilised and Western and modern, would ever seek to close a library. To me, libraries are universities for the masses, and we close them at our peril. And so I will continue to fight, as many others are doing. You know, so many groups and individuals are campaigning for libraries. I have the very great privilege of being a trustee for the library campaign, which is a national campaign set up in the 80s in actual fact, to help. So this fight has been going on for quite a long time, but it's been revved up with the current government's actions and those of many local authorities up and down the country. If you'd like to find out about what the library campaign are up to, maybe join our board of trustees or get involved in some other way, then please on Twitter go to @LibraryCampaign, or if you put the library campaign into the Google search engine or any other search engine, you'll find us there. This is a really important fight to save our public libraries, so please do get involved. As I mentioned in the first edition of Mathew's Month last month, each time we're going to have a couple of questions from viewers, which I shall try my best to answer on politics and current affairs. If you'd like to ask me one, always polite please, then do put it in the comments here in this video, and hopefully I'll answer it next month. I have a question from Rob from Bristol, and Rob asks, how many MPs will the Lib Dems have in 2020? I am a Liberal Democrat, for those of you who don't know. And where do you see your growth areas as being? Well, in terms of how many MPs we'll have, my answer is hopefully many more than we've got at the moment. Obviously, we were reduced from 56 to 8 at the last election, very sadly in my view. So in terms of how many we'll have, I think we'll be well into double figures. Hopefully 20 to 30 would be absolutely fantastic. Some might say that's optimistic, but we Liberals are optimists, and I believe that with our new leader, Tim Farron, who's fantastic, we will grow in popularity again. And I think a lot of people are seeing, you know, yes, people wanted to give us a bit of a kick for some of what we did in coalition, and believe me, I disagreed with some of what we did in coalition and made that very public. But I think now we're not there, and there's a Tory majority, Tory-only government. Many people are thinking, gosh, we kind of miss those Lib Dems. They might not have gotten much of the credit for the good stuff that happened, but boy, did they stop a lot of the bad things that the Tories are now have absolute free reign to do. And so I think we will grow in popularity. In terms of where our growth areas being, we've always been strong in the West Country, we've been strong in parts of the South West, but I believe we can gain MPs in all parts of the country, including here in the East Midlands, in my own seat of Bosworth. So look out for that, and we can see if I'm right in a few years' time when the general election happens. And the final question is from Harry from Leicester. Harry, thanks very much for getting in touch. And Harry asks, do you support the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement? Well, Harry, thanks very much for getting in touch. The answer is that yes, I do. And I know that Harry's probably asking this because the government is trying to force through new rules which mean that public institutions, councils, public bodies, maybe even universities are not able to take a decision, to take a vote, to boycott firms that they believe are not behaving in an ethical way, be that about fossil fuels, be that about firms involved in the arms trade. They're going to actually legally not be able to take that vote. Now, number one, I say that do we live in a country with democracy and freedom of speech, or don't we? I mean, here in Leicester, and Leicester was used, when this was in the news recently, Leicester was used as an example. Leicester City Council took a decision that you may or may not agree with, but they took a decision to divest from having the council use any goods or services from Israel because of the regime there that they took a view on. Now, whether or not you agree with that, everyone has their own view in a democracy, but to say that the elected members are not allowed to even make that decision and to make that stand that they feel is right, to my view, is wrong. And so I absolutely do support the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement. And I think there's a wider point actually about this government, that they don't seem to like anyone who might be critical of it. Now you may say, well, they're politicians, and that's natural, Mathew, and of course I can tell you when I was a councillor that you know, hearing things critical, especially if you thought they were being unfairly critical, wasn't necessarily nice, but I'm afraid that's what you sign up for when you sign up for elected politics, that some people will like what you're doing and other people won't. And the government is trying to silence charities, I'd argue, with some of the rules that they're putting through in regards to government grants, and whether charities are then able to speak out after they've had a government grant against the government on certain issues. They're trying to do this with public bodies, of preventing them from taking the decision to boycott and divest from firms that they don't feel are ethical. And they're even planning to stop the short money of opposition parties in Parliament. Now, people might not realise this, but short money is the money that the government gives, in effect the state gives, to opposition parties to ensure that they can do their job of opposing the government and do their job as opposition parties, because obviously they don't have government funding by not being in government. And they're even wanting to reduce short money to opposition parties. And so I say, what is wrong with this government? Are they really that afraid of critical commentary that they've got to take all these measures to apparently silence their critics? I wish that they'd stop that, and I can tell you that had Lib Dems still been in government, we'd have had no such truck with it. And finally then, for this video, I just want to mention that as I'm standing here, Fair Trade Fortnight begins next week and runs throughout most of March until about the middle of March. And as I mentioned last month, fair trade, as I think most people know, means that when you see a product with a little fair trade mark on it, it means that if you buy that product, bananas, tea, coffee, more than 4,000 fair trade products now available in the UK, more of the money that you spend, a fairer amount, goes to the original farmer, developer and grower in the developing world, and enables them to live with dignity and send their children to school and all the rest of it. So do take part in fair trade events. We've got loads going on in Hinckley and Bosworth, and no doubt throughout the rest of the country as well. And then also next month, towards the middle of next month, in fact during Fair Trade Fortnight, I shall be off to York for Lib Dem conference. And someone rather uncharitable on Twitter said, does that take place in a phone box? No, it doesn't. We have thousands of members, 60,000 plus members now, who are fighting to keep the Liberal flame alive because we think it's important. And so I shall be off there towards the middle of next month, and on next month's Mathew's month I'll tell you a little bit about how that went on. And so until then, it's goodbye.